Police are today examining the scene of yesterday's attack in the Dunedin Central Countdown supermarket on Cumberland Street. Gathering evidence from the scene is one of our top priorities today. This includes photography, blood sampling and collection of any discarded items for further examination. We've also been working to identify and to speak as many witnesses as possible, and of course the victims in this matter who remain front of mind. We're also currently assessing how best to support them and their whānau. All four remain in hospital and I understand are recovering, and we'll hear more about that shortly. This is a positive sign, however they have a long road ahead and we ask that the media respect their privacy at this time. While the investigation is still in its early stages, police now have an emerging picture of what occurred yesterday afternoon. I would like in particular to recognise the Countdown staff who first intervened and were the initial victims. I'd also like to acknowledge the members of the public that came to their assistance, restraining the alleged offender and in providing aid and comfort to the injured. Two police officers, one of whom was off duty, were also at the supermarket at the time and stepped in to provide aid and support. The actions of those two officers, and indeed all of the people involved, the Countdown staff and members of the public, helped to de-escalate the situation and minimise any further harm. Our first responders were on the scene very quickly, and I've received feedback that indicates they provided a high standard of first aid that almost certainly saved the lives of some of the victims. This was an extremely fast-moving and confronting scene for everybody involved, including police staff. They all did an exceptional job when it mattered the most, and I'm certainly very proud of my police officers as I talk to you this afternoon. Today, a 42-year-old man appeared in the District Court in Dunedin on 4 counts of attempted murder, and he has been remanded in custody to appear again on Tuesday the 1st of June. As the matter is now before the courts, police are not in a position to provide any further details in relation to the alleged offender. And finally, we continue to appeal for anyone who has information, including video footage of the incident, to get in touch with us via our 105 number quoting the Dunedin Countdown incident. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. At the Southern DHB, we would like to acknowledge the various inquiries we've had from the media asking about the hospital response to this incident, and we would like to thank you for your concern and interest. Firstly, we'd like to say that our thoughts and best wishes are with all those in the community affected and traumatised by this tragic event, including the team at our local Countdown supermarket. In Dunedin Hospital, whilst we train and practice to respond to this sort of event, it nonetheless is a very challenging and stressful time for all staff and departments in the hospital. We're all also members of the Dunedin community and are shocked and saddened by this incident on a personal level. We would like to say a huge thank you to all the staff involved in yesterday's emergency response. We received several critically unwell patients into the emergency department at very short notice, and I am proud of the job our hospital team did in caring for them. There was an excellent hospital response at a hospital-wide level, with teams from the emergency department, surgery, intensive care and anaesthetics providing immediate care to the patients in the emergency department before moving them on to the operating theatres and to the intensive care unit. There was also a great response from ward staff who helped to alleviate the pressure on the emergency department by caring for other patients and allowing us to focus on those who are injured. I can provide you with a brief update on the condition of our patients. 3 people remain in a serious condition, but we are pleased to say that they are stable and improving, with none still requiring intensive care. 1 patient remains in a moderate condition. All 4 have required surgery, and we wish them all the best and a speedy recovery. Major incident responses are a team effort across multiple agencies, and we feel privileged in the emergency department and in the wider Dunedin Hospital to be able to serve our community at this very difficult time. Thank you.
At this stage, we consider it to be a random attack, and the motive behind it will be part of the ongoing investigation. As I've said previously, it's still very early days, but as the investigation progresses, we hope to gain a better understanding of the motive.
Have police collected and identified the weapon or weapons used in the attack?
We've been in the scene at Countdown today, and the recovery of the weapons has been a focus of that. As the matter is now before the court, I don't really want to comment on that, but I can reassure the public that they don't need to worry about the whereabouts of those knives.
Can you say whether he came to the supermarket?
Again, that's a matter of fact that I think now needs to rest before the courts.
What's the police's advice for the public if they see a violent incident like this?
Well, I mean, every situation is different. We would always normally sort of say, unless you really have to intervene, don't. Call the police and we will try and get there. But I'm reluctant to be critical of anybody that actually did what they did yesterday to intervene. I think they all showed a tremendous degree of bravery and selfless sort of courage that I'm certainly not going to criticise them for. But as a general rule, if you can turn or walk away from something or deconflict it, then I think that's the best approach to take. But in this situation, I think they were heroes.
Your officers that were there, the one working off you, how were they involved in leading the response?
Again, I think I don't really want to distinguish their contribution from the contribution of the others. I think you could observe them in the CCTV looking at it from a police officer perspective, but they were a part of a group of human beings that intervened to support other people that were being attacked. And I don't think they should be distinguished any more or less than the others were there, particularly the Countdown staff and, of course, those other members of the public.
Have police searched any other areas of interest around Dunedin, given the man's there's no fixed abode?
Hamish, it really is early days. Certainly we will be doing a lot of background inquiries as part of the investigation into this offender, and I imagine as addresses of interest become known to the investigation, we will do that if necessary.
Was the man known to the supermarket?
I can't answer that directly, I'm sorry, you'll have to refer that to the Countdown supermarket.
And what conversations, if any, have you had with Countdown moving forward security-wise?
So today we had a meeting with Countdown executives and local managers. I have a team here working on a community impact plan, and our work with Countdown will form part of that community impact plan. So the liaison there is very strong.
Had any concerns around safety at the Countdown around the pharmacy been aired prior to yesterday?
Well, from time to time, like any supermarket, police will get reports of behaviour, disorderly behaviour or other forms of behaviour that are taking place in those sorts of public places. So we are, infrequently, sometimes regularly visiting those public places, including Countdown, but certainly nothing of this nature, obviously.
We understand that you were set to meet with Countdown this Friday about these safety concerns that have been raised. Is this correct?
Me personally, no. No, I don't know anything about that.
How many stab wounds each victim received?
Say again?
How many stab wounds each victim received?
Look, I think that's something we can't comment on at this stage. It is a matter that's now before the courts, and that's a matter of fact that needs to be established through the judicial process.
When the offender was apprehended by members of the public and the staff, were any makeshift weapons or anything used?
Again, beyond a general comment around what took place, which is I'm limiting to members of the public, Countdown staff and these two police officers going to the assistance and aid of one another, I can't and won't comment as to the specifics as the matter is now before the court.
Can we have final questions, please? Rich, how busy was ED yesterday as a firm? What impact did it have on the ED operation?
So I guess you'd sort of describe our volumes as fairly normal. So on an afternoon shift, we're just starting to get busy at that time of day. In terms of its impact on operations, it was enormous. We had very short notice in terms of the time that we had to prepare, just because of how close the incident was to the emergency department. Essentially, our first response is to try and prepare as best we can, which includes clearing space around the emergency department because we were already full when these patients came in. And that's why this is it's such a hospital-wide response, because we have to get our current patients, without compromising their care, out of the way so that we can look after the new arrivals, and the hospital did a great job of doing that. We were able to mobilise multiple trauma teams to look after each patient individually, and we were able to open several acute operating theatres to deal with the requirement for emergency operations as well.
Were any staff that weren't already sort of on duty called in to help out with the response?
Because the time of day it happened is that we were relatively well staffed, and the rest of the because it happened sort of during normal business hours, the hospital was well staffed with sort of business as usual. So we didn't call in extra staff to help with the emergency side of it. We did call in some extra staff later on in the day, because obviously once this is dealt with, we then still have all our normal patients, so normal people attending to just carry on dealing with. So we got a bit of extra help earlier in the evening to just get back under control of the rest of the department.
Were all the victims conscious when they arrived at Eden?
I don't think I should answer any questions about sort of specific medical state of any of the patients.
People are saying that these victims have a long road ahead in terms of their recovery. Any of the injuries likely to be life-altering long term?
Again, without going into the details of any particular injuries, I think it's fair to say that they're all significant and will have some ongoing consequences.
Question Paul. Is this going to open an inquiry into the safety of customer service workers in Dunedin and the country?
Well, certainly I think that's an interest for Countdown, and it will be part of the dialogue that police nationally would have with franchises like Countdown. So yes, I do think it is always timely and relevant to be looking at those matters. Where that goes, I couldn't comment on or predict.